If someone were to ask you the state of computer science education today and kind of how it's grown over the last few years, how would you kind of summarize that?
The availability of courses across K-12 education looks a lot better now. The landscape looks a lot better now than it did 5 years ago, 10 years ago. But we're not yet to the point that every student has access to high quality computer science education across K-12. We're not yet to the point where every school has qualified, capable teachers to teach these classes. So better now than it was a decade ago, but still lots of work to do.
Along those lines, since computer science is such a young discipline, there's still a lot of basic questions out there just simply around why. So if I'm a third grade teacher, why is it important for me to teach computer science? If I'm a high school teacher, why is it important for me to teach computer science? So we oftentimes don't like to treat education as a job apprenticeship program. But in explaining why computer science education, that's often the answer. There's all these jobs out there. So beyond that, why is it important for students to learn computer science?
So part of it is still kind of in this job preparation, but not to train students to be computer scientists, but just acknowledging it, if you're going to be a teacher, being able to use technology is productive. If you want to be a journalist, if you want to be an economist, if you want to work in advertising, if you want to work in entertainment, all of these things are increasingly computational or technological.
So just like we don't expect everyone taking high school biology to be a biologist, we don't necessarily expect everyone taking computer science to be a computer scientist.
Yeah, 100%. And I think even beyond that, bringing that parallel over to kind of English language arts, we don't expect everyone to be a novelist, but being able to read and make meaning from what you've read, but also being able to communicate in a written form. These are essential skills, whether or not your profession is directly related to kind of what we'd think of English language arts as preparing someone for.
If you had to give advice to a brand new computer science teacher that's just getting started teaching computer science, well, let's say middle school, they might be a little bit nervous, what advice would you give them about getting started teaching computer science?
To not be afraid to not know the answer. I think there's a really productive pedagogical practice of showing students what it looks like to not know the answer, or what it looks like to write a program that's buggy, what it looks like to debug programs, what it looks like to use the internet or use other resources to try and solve problems. In some ways that can be a really scary thing for teachers, especially coming from a kind of a more traditional that like the teacher is the
sage on the stage.
Exactly. But that's not what computer science looks like. That's not what computer science is. Part of what it means to do computer science is to write buggy programs and debug things, to figure things out. And this gets back to the idea of computer science always changing and new things emerging and new technologies, new tools, new challenges. Yeah, so the short version of the advice is jump in and have fun, and don't be afraid.
See the full interview and other exclusive professional development materials such as videos, articles, and webinars at pd.vex.com.